So this story is absolutely amazing. So my boy, the absolute GOAT, Tiger Woods, turned down nearly $1 billion to join a Saudi-backed golf league called the Live Tour. And this is according to Greg Norman, who's the CEO of that tour. So let me give you some of this here. Golf icon Tiger Woods turned down nearly $1 billion to join the Saudi-backed Live Tour. By the way, the number that's being reported is somewhere between $500 million and $1 billion he turned down. Woods turned down a deal that was mind-blowingly enormous. We're talking about high 9 digits. Live Golf Investments Commissioner and Chief Executive Greg Norman told the Washington Post. Live hosts its first tour. That's a weird way of phrasing it, because these aren't golf people who wrote this, obviously. But anyway, this week in St. Albans in England, despite not attracting Woods, Live has signed on talent including Phil Mickelson, who was the second best player to Tiger throughout their generation and their era. Phil's now 51 years old, by the way, with a reported $200 million. They gave Phil $200 million. Dustin Johnson, with a reported $125 million. He's ranked like about 13th in the world, Dustin Johnson is, 2-time major champion, and he's won over 20 PGA Tour events, which would give him a lifetime exemption on the PGA Tour if he is there for over 15 years as well. Major champions Charles Schwartzel and Sergio Garcia, as well as other notable players including Louis Oosthuizen, Kevin Na, and Ian Poulter. Live Golf has come under fire for being backed by Saudi Arabia's public investment fund, given the 2018 killing of Washington Post columnist Jamal Khashoggi, who was critical of the Saudi regime. U.S. intelligence has deemed Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman as having backed the move to take out Khashoggi, you don't say, in the Saudi embassy in Turkey. Mickelson once blasted the Saudis as scary motherfuckers to get involved with, only to apologize. We know they killed Khashoggi and have a horrible record on human rights. They execute people over there for being gay, he said. Knowing all this, why would I even consider it? Because this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to reshape how the PGA Tour operates. So that led to a massive backlash. Mickelson basically apologized and went in hiding. But really, when he apologized, he was more apologizing to Saudi Arabia for offending them. So he was hoping, please, can I still get my payday? And the answer is yes. He's still getting his payday, and he's going to partake in this event. They reference it in this article too, but I'll just show you this one. Dustin Johnson resigns from the PGA Tour after taking reported 9-figure mega deal to join the Saudi Tour. Quote, I chose what's best for me. So, let me break this down for everybody. Saudi Arabia is engaged in what's called sports washing. The idea is, how do we appeal to a broad audience and basically whitewash our human rights record and our abuses? Not only do they kill journalists like Jamal Khashoggi and behead people in the public square and kill gay people and kill people who are apostates and kill people for witchcraft and sorcery, they also are currently involved in a genocide in Yemen. Let me repeat that. They are involved in a genocide in Yemen with the help of the U.S. government, by the way, because we give them money and we give them weapons. So they've blockaded the country. They're basically starving them. There's a famine. People are dying from starvation. And on a regular basis, they're bombing mosques and hospitals and schools and open-air markets. And this has been reported extensively over the past however many years. They've been doing it for a while. So they've already edged their way into other sports by throwing colossal sums of money at people. I know they did something with the WWE not too long ago. They're involved with racing. And now they want to get involved in golf. Now, golf typically is viewed as, like an elite sport, right? Like, it costs a decent amount of money to play it. A lot of wealthy people play it. It hasn't always been like that. Back in the day, it was actually working class to one extent or another. Now, it's more viewed as an elite sport. And so, Mohammed bin Salman wants to basically, effectively, buy all of professional golf. And he's not thinking in the short term. He's thinking 10 years, 20 years down the road. He's effectively trying to coup the PGA Tour, which of course is the current, premier elite tour, and trying to push them out and doing it by buying the talent. So, look, are there issues with the PGA Tour? Absolutely. There's some things that I really don't like about how it works. For one thing, if you miss the cut in an event, you make no money. So you could be a professional golfer and just not make any money for like a whole year if you're not playing well and you miss all the cuts. So you could really go into the red if that's the case. I never liked that about professional golf. I think just the fact that you show up and you're working, if this is your job, they should at least give them a stipend so that they could, however you say it, so they can pay their bills, right? So I never liked that. But in other ways, it's good because it's a meritocracy, and like the better you do, the more you make, the further you go. But there's massive income inequality and wealth inequality in the PGA Tour, where the top 15 or 20 players make all the money in the world, and the person who's ranked like 125 on the PGA Tour is probably, barely getting by and paying the bills because they have to take care of their family, they have to pay for their home, and also they got to do all the travel costs, and they might not make that much money in a given year. So there are changes that I would make, but Phil has always had this massive issue with the PGA Tour. He feels like he's been underpaid. The reality is that's nonsense. He hasn't been underpaid. The problem with Phil Mickelson is there's been reporting that he's got about $40 million in gambling debt. And so he blew through the colossal amount of money that he had, and now he's looking for a quick payday, and he's taking blood money to do it. Now, a lot of the people on the tour, their big response is, and they had press conferences this week where they talked about a lot of this stuff. Look, I'm just a golfer. I'm just a golfer, and if Saudi Arabia wants to use this to change their ways, then I'm all for that. So they flip it as like, oh, we're helping to modernize and bring us into a brighter future where they act better. But that decidedly is not what's happening here. Graham McDowell is one of the pros who said that, and he brought up Jamal Khashoggi, but what's happening is, specifically so they don't have to change how they act, they're trying to get involved in professional sports. Because they could just deflect and hide all of the human rights abuses if they give people the entertainment that they want. If they become, a household name because of the way that they've now gotten, a foothold into popular culture and sports. So the whole point is not, hey, maybe we'll be better now. The whole point is, so we can continue to do our genocide in Yemen, so we can continue to be incredibly authoritarian, so we can continue to be primitive and draconian. That's why we're getting involved in it, and you guys are going to help us deflect and distract and obfuscate from all this stuff that's going on. So, look, the PGA Tour is in a little bit of a bind right now, because like, if you win on the PGA Tour, maybe you make $1 million, right? If you win on this Saudi-backed tour, you're going to make $4 million. The other thing is, there's really no guaranteed money on the PGA Tour at all. The Saudi Tour threw $200 million at Phil Mickelson, threw $125 million at Dustin Johnson. They offered Tiger guaranteed between $500 million and $1 billion. Now, by the way, why did Tiger reject it? Now, I think Tiger's the GOAT. I love him to death, but I got to keep it real with you guys. He didn't do it for moral reasons. He didn't. The reason why he did it is because he's at the end of his career, his entire legacy is on the PGA Tour, and everybody wants to be able to compare apples to apples when they look at records. So, it's hard to put in context how good somebody was if you can't measure it up against something that's equivalent. So a record on the PGA Tour compared to a record on the PGA Tour makes perfect sense. But to compare it to this live golf thing where the average world ranking right now for people who are there is like 350 something or whatever, that's not really an apples to apples comparison. So he came out, he said, look, I believe in the way the system works right now. I'm loyal to the PGA Tour, and this is where my legacy is. So it wasn't necessarily a moral thing, but still, at the end of the day, that's some goat shit, dog. I mean, you said no to nearly $1 billion. $1 billion. What a badass. What a badass. I love that. Now, the rest of them, they were just trying to get paid. And so the list of the people who signed up for the first event were like the biggest sellouts. The ones who have like zero morality and zero ethics, and they would literally take fucking money from Goebbels in 1938 or Hitler himself in 1938. I'm just a golfer. But now, and this is what's going to happen, as time goes by, more and more PGA Tour players are going to hop over to the Live Tour because they see the money that people are making, and they're going to go, wait, I beat that guy every single week. I absolutely want to go take him on. Like, that guy just made $4 million, and I'm way better than him. I want to make the $4 million. So now you're going to have Brooks Koepka is going to head over there. He's a multiple major champion. Bryson DeChambeau is going to head over there. He's a U.S. Open champion, and he's won a bunch of events as well. Patrick Reed, who's a Masters champion, and he's also a cheater, by the way. He's making his way over there. Now the list is going to grow. And so the PGA Tour is sort of in an impossible position because you're up against an opponent that has an infinite amount of money. How do you compete against that? So there was only one move that I thought they had that could work, and it looks like that move's not going to happen. So if you can prevent these people, these pros who leave the tour, from playing in major championships, then I don't think they'd go to the tour. Because as much as people might be all about the money, a lot of them do care about major championships. All of the big names do care about major championships because they want to build a legacy around that. The PGA Tour doesn't run the major championships. They're run by different organizations. So the USGA runs the US Open. That's a major. The PGA of America runs the PGA Championship. That's a major. The R&A runs the British Open, or the Open Championship as they call it. That's a major. Augusta National runs the Masters. That's a major. So if you could somehow get all of the people who run the majors into a room and say, look, ban them from participating in the majors if they play on this Saudi tour, then that had a chance of working, and you would stop a mass exodus. But it looks like that's not going to happen because the U.S. Open is next week, and they already said we can't change the criteria. It would be unfair to the players, so the ones who already qualified for it are going to be able to play. And so, not looking good, man. It is not looking good for the PGA Tour. And it's a real shame because even though there are massive issues with the PGA Tour, and there's this whole thing like, I think they're registered as like a non-profit and they do a bunch of charity, but really it's a tax avoidance scheme. You guys know how these things work. It's standard corporate thuggery. It's terrible. And they've done business with China and stuff like that. So there's plenty of stuff to criticize there, but I think it was more Chinese companies and not the Chinese government, which is not as bad if you do business with the Chinese companies instead of the Chinese government. Government would be worse. But there are criticisms there, but honestly, the wrongdoings of the PGA Tour are nothing in comparison to the wrongdoings of a government that's currently committing a genocide. Like, literally doing a genocide. Killing dissidents. Like we said, beheading people in the public square. I mean, it's comical. It's absolutely comical. So, look, at the end of the day, I think this is terrible for golf, because you're now going to have a professional sport in a decade or two that is just basically owned by Saudi Arabia. And that's going to, I mean, golf already has people view it as like the elitist sport, but now it's on a whole nother level. It's like just a flat out immoral sport. There was all these stars who have so much money were like, I want that much more, where morality and ethics don't weigh into it, and they're going to go and take blood money. So the only person who I want to give massive credit to, other than Tiger, of course, is Rory McIlroy, because Rory has come out and said very clearly in moral terms, like, I don't like the source of this money at all. This is unethical. This is immoral. You know, I don't want to take money from that source. So he's the only one who's taken that moral stand. Everybody else is like, oh, I'm just a golfer, and, you know, what am I going to do? This is for me and my family. So, and I understand it. If you're ranked number 148 in the world, right, and you truly are not wealthy, I can see why that person, I don't agree with them, but I could see why they're like, fuck, I get a guaranteed however much they'll get. $5 million guaranteed up front, I gotta do it. But for anybody in the top 20 or the top 30 who already is worth, you know, $40 million or whatever, and there's plenty of guys like that, guys who are worth between like 10 million and 30 million who are in the top 20. Fuck you guys, man. Because it really goes to show you. The money talks so much, and these are people who would have in 1938 taken a check from Hitler and been like, I just play golf, what? Pathetic. It's absolutely pathetic. So, Tiger Woods is the GOAT. Rory McIlroy is awesome. Everybody else sucks. And unfortunately, I do think the PGA Tour is in a really rough situation where eventually Saudi Arabia might own all of professional golf, and that is a terrible thing. If you want to see me and Crystal Ball interview legends like Noam Chomsky, Cornel West, and more, subscribe to Crystal Kyle and Friends on Substack. $5 a month gets you the video version a day early. Remember, we take zero ad dollars for this podcast. Or you can sign up on Substack for free and get the audio version a day later. Link in the video description box below.